Welcome to Watching the Throne.
A lyrical analysis of Yeezus. Kanye West.
You know, some people might make the argument that seems to be the case. My name is Chris Lambert.
My name is Travis Bean, and sorry, today we're talking about Yeezus, and I just got a little confused up top.
Well, Yeezus is on our mind constantly.
He just rose again.
Yes.
He sure did, and we are ready for it.
We were born ready for it, I like to think.
And in anticipation of Jesus is King coming out on September 27th, we are cycling through Kanye's albums for the Advent calendar, counting down our favorite songs from each album, and today we've got Yeezus. It is day 16?
No, not even close.
It is day 16.
Okay, very close.
In fact, right on. Day 16. So, all right, let's see what's going on in here. And, 16 Smarties.
That's pretty good. That's much better than, wasn't it one Smartie that appeared earlier?
There was it a Smartie? Oh, yeah. So we had one Smartie one random day, and now we have 16 Smarties. Does that mean like we're being rewarded for being so efficient in these episodes?
I think so.
All right. Well, I don't expect this episode to be efficient at all, because we'll probably each talk about our 5 favorite songs from Yeezus for approximately 3 hours.
We're going to try our best. I think, man, maybe if this isn't efficient, we should try doing something where we just make 10-minute episodes.
Well, we already did that. So.
Did we already do it?
Yeah, that was day 15.
Oh, well.
These are all out of order for us.
Yeah, we need like a line producer or something that can be like, or a continuity editor.
Yeah, that's me. I'm that.
Yeah. You're doing a good job, honey.
Thank you. Yep. Yeah, you're in step with me and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're counting down our top 5 favorite songs from Yeezus. As well noted on this show, on Twitter, this, on any given day, like, this is sometimes our favorite Kanye West album, so a top 5 is pretty tough to do.
Yeah, it's the album that inspired us to do the podcast, because we were writing about movies at the time, and when Yeezus came out, we were like, this is doing so many of the things narratively that we talk about movies doing. Why is nobody talking about this? They're not even saying that it has a narrative, much less anything else. As critically acclaimed as it was, nobody was picking up on the narrative element, and that's why we started the show.
Yeah, and famously, Hold My Liquor won the first 2 Kanye West Death Song Tournament Death Match Extremes. The years Chris, Jordan, and I did it.
Yes. And it is yet to win the Twitter version of the Best Kanye West Song Tournament Deathmatch Extreme.
It's coming, though.
Yeah, this year might be. We had Runaway and Blood on the Leaves win the first 2. So could it be Hold My Liquor's time to shine?
Hold My Liquor, Devil in a New Dress, Ghost Town. It's going to be a fucking fight.
Yeah. I mean, Power was in the finals last year, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're right.
So this will be interesting.
All right, so let's get into it. Number 5.
All right, my number 5 is going to go against the grain almost immediately, and I'm sure this is on your list somewhere as well. I'm in it.
It is, but I'll wait to talk about it.
Okay. So I'm in it, for me, has always been fascinating, because one of the things that I like the most about Yeezus is how he winds in and out of ego and vulnerability, where he keeps having to put this ego on display to puff himself up, while also feeling this inner torment at what he doesn't have, which is love, family, all the stuff that we heard on 808s and Heartbreak, right? Mm-hmm. So you get on Hold My Liquor this introduction of Justin Vernon and Chief Keef kind of embodying this push and pull dynamic of who he presents himself as and who he really wants to be. And I feel like I'm in it is such the height of that in some ways, where you get Assassin coming in, you get Justin Vernon coming in. It's this interaction between some of the most like outrageous sexual lines that Kanye has ever had in a verse, much less a song. And it kind of goes all over the place as we go from like the intensity of the sexual exploits to then the heavy emotion that Justin Vernon brings in, and just the notion of like, I'm in this and I can't get out. Like, I feel like we've all had behaviors, especially like the older that you get, where you get into bad habits. You're just like, why do I keep doing this? Like, how do I keep ending up in this spot doing this thing? Whether that's like eating bad food, not going to the gym, going to bed late, or drugs, worse things. Like, you kind of look at yourself and you're like, what? how can't I get out of this habit and routine? And to have that all contrasted by this idea of this girl that's just like finding a star fucker, or she is a star fucker. Yeah. And Justin Vernon saying that, there's something very sad and broken about this song, from the relationship to Yeezus himself, and all of that builds to the outro, which is again this attempt for him to like puff himself up. And I feel like the outro is one of the coolest things that Kanye's ever done and never gets talked about.
Yeah, the outro is like, that's GOAT Kanye right there. Like, there are 2 or 3 times he spazzes on this album, and like, and we're talking like I Am a God, New Slaves, like I'm In It might be the best though.
Yeah, like, as much as I love the second verse of New Slaves, I low-key find the outro of I'm In It just as powerful.
It's crazy. It's unbelievable that it doesn't get talked about more.
Yeah. And just the way Starfucker sets up Blood on the Leaves is really cool to me as well. And then the final line, I be speaking swag Healy.
It's one of his best.
It's amazing.
One of his best.
Yeah.
I'll elaborate a little bit more on that later. So for my number 5, this is actually tough because I definitely know what my top 4 are. Like, I know the 4 of my favorite Kanye songs ever. The 5th, like, that's really hard for me to pick because literally every song in this album is incredible. Like, Guilt Trip is one of his most underrated songs. Black Skinhead, New Slaves, I have like super fond memories of those because of the SNL performances, like, and they're just bangers. But I think I have to pick On Sight. Like, I feel obligated to, because I remember the moment. I mean, everyone remembers the moment they first heard those opening notes of On Sight and just being like, what the fuck is this? This is not rap music. This is not Kanye. Like, this is something different. And I had a negative reaction to it at first, what I think is the beauty of it. It's meant to repel you a little bit, and it's antagonistic, and it's not inviting or welcoming. You have to work to love it, I think. And there's just everything about that song to me is incredible now. Like, the way it sets up the aesthetic of the album, the ego on the album, the character. It doesn't have much to it. Like, it's literally just a dude who shows up at a club and acts like a maniac. But yet it sets up everything with that interlude, and how, both the narrative on the album, like, who is this, like, God speaking to Kanye? Is this Kanye speaking about, like, his role in life, like, with the public, and how he always speaks the truth? Like, it really puts you in the headspace of the character and the manicness of the character leading into the rest of the album. And it's just it's such an incredible song. It's like 2 minutes long, and it's fucking incredible.
The opening soundscape like invigorates my heart rate every time it comes on.
It's a great running song.
It's so teleportive, I guess, if I could phrase it that way. It just, every time I hear it, I just feel like I'm really sucked into the Yeezus world and atmosphere, and it just puts me in the proper headspace. And I love what you're describing about the song and the attitude. I feel like there's movement, but also a hollowness to the song and soundscape that contrasts so well eventually with Bound 2, that where you start with Yeezus and where you end is two different sonic points. And without On Sight, I don't think you have as much of that unconscious emotional journey that is powerful, even if you don't understand the narrative that's going on as you listen.
Totally. I think that's really key. That's the key to the whole album, is that shift in sound. This is going to make me sound really pretentious, but I was listening to a Swedish song earlier this morning. I don't know why. It was this artist I like that had an English song, and she had a Swedish song come up, so I just listened to it. And I don't know what she's saying, but like, I understand the journey of the song. Like, I understand the movement and the emotion that's being built just based on the music and the way her voice changes. Like, I can tell like how emotional the song is. So I think that's key for Yeezus. Like you're describing, Bound 2 is a very lush sound. The soundscape like really fills your ears, to whereas On Sight sets up this emptiness. Like, there's so much space in the sound, and it feels like sounds like bouncing around, and that creates kind of the insanity of it all, and like kind of the manicness of the character. That is so consciously done by Kanye, to where even if you don't understand the story in the album, like, you get that things are crazy at first and like settled and lovely at the end. Like, things aren't perfect at the end, but like, you feel like whoever you're listening to is in a better place.
Amazing.
Yeah. Number 4.
New Slaves. That's what I got at number 4.
Woo, man.
Is that one you're gonna have to talk about later?
Surprisingly, no. I mean, I love it to death, but it's not on my list.
Okay, nice. The thing that I love just up front, I mean, there's so many great moments in it, but the fact that it took me years to realize that the chill that you can kind of understand at the beginning is Swizz Beatz and comes from the Power remix.
Yeah.
And on the Power remix, Jay and Kanye, still talk about power a bit more directly than Kanye did on the album, right? On the album, it's more like, I shouldn't have all that power. But in the remix, it's more looking at society and power structures in society, and more ruminating on power as a concept and an idea. And at the end of that, Kanye goes on this really long spiel about, it's like a 2-minute, no more parties in LA kind of style verse, or second verse of New Slaves, just this elongated stretch of him rapping. And Swizz Beatz ends the track by telling Kanye just to like chill, like wow, you really went off, like it's done, it's over. So there, Kanye stopped rapping, but here, you have Swizz Beatz, who ended the previous song being like chill, and Kanye refuses to chill. Like, instead, he comes in and still goes off again. That to me is just like a really cool and subtle thing to do. And it just shows the difference where, like, before he was fine with stopping and now he's not. He has more to say. Yeah. And then we go into the verses, and the verses are just, I love what he does, mixing old school concepts of slavery with this new school concept of slavery, going from the actual physical form of it to the mental, financial, materialistic form of it that we have today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a lot of interviews, he was even like, every time someone would even mention the word racism, he would just be like, no, it's classism now. I think that's kind of what he's updated it to, is like, it's more than like slavery. It's like kind of what you're saying, like mental enslavement. Like, you're a slave to like brands and what these corporations are like forcing you to believe, to think you need. It's stuff he's been talking about since All Falls Down.
right? There's that, you buy what we tell you to buy. We make you think you need this. And also for an artist, like, you want me to stay at ease and you want me to be under this contract. You want me to be like your slave in a way as an artist. And you'll throw these Maybach keys that get me to be like, okay, I'll sign whatever. Fuck it. C'est la vie. But you're signing away your freedom. You're signing away your ability to express yourself. And for him to go from something that's as simple as that to extrapolating it to, you know, the DEA teamed up with the CCA, getting at private prisons, which the CCA ended up changing their name.
Because of Kanye.
I like to think it's because of Kanye. They were just starting to get so much flack because they're shitty. Like, private prisons shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
And for him to go from that smaller personal concept of it to this big societal concept of it, it's one of the things that I love that Yeezus does. And often why I tend to argue that Yeezus is as deep as something as To Pimp a Butterfly, because To Pimp a Butterfly, people talk about how it looks at society and how it looks at where not only Kendrick came from, but also just American culture and America in general. And I think Kanye does the same thing. It's just with a broader perspective, where he'll start really small and local on a song like this and then extrapolate it to the whole. So it's not as like novel or literary as what Kendrick does. It's more poetic, but they're still getting at the same concepts and attacking the same structures and ideas.
Yeah.
And then I'll let you talk about the outro.
It's incredible. I mean, like, that shit's great. Again, this is the beauty of being a Kanye fan, I think, is, like, he's willing to do weird shit like this. Where, like, you know, Kanye could dominate the radio if he wanted. Like, he could make so much money dominating the radio and just making hits. But instead, he's making a song like New Slaves that is politically charged, plays into a narrative of an album, is like got this epic rant of a verse, and then at the end has this crazy outro that completely shifts the tone and goes into a Hungarian poem where this guy is talking about how a woman will rise out of a green somber lake and like save the world. And it just sets up this whole idea of like a woman saving Kanye, or the fact that Kanye needs saving. Like, it calls it out without like directly calling it out. It's something you have to go dig and find and like understand. That shit's nuts, man.
Yeah. Like, after all of this energy that he released, that he's at a point where he's like the sun too tired to shine and sinking into this lake until this woman saves him. And then we see the soundscape on the album shift to something far more somber and dark. That's so cool.
It's like, fucking crazy.
The ego that was so dominant on the first few songs really slips. And it's like he heard the Hungarian song and was just like, I'm going to make an album about that.
Man, this is the shit. Like, Kanye, like, notoriously just has so many like samples on the cutting room floor. Like, he's listening to so many new songs and going to vinyl stores and like finding weird ass random records. Like, where did he find this Hungarian song and how did he fit it into like a narrative on an album? Like, where does he have the headspace or time to do any of this?
I'm so curious.
And we'll find out when we get him on the show.
Yeah. Just come on the show.
Look, we've talked about it before. It's not a big deal. We need 2, 3, maybe 6 hours of your time. We know you're busy, but at the same time, you're not that busy. Like, we see you doing shit all the time. Like, instead of going to Nobu, you can come on the show.
Or we'll go to Nobu with you.
There we go. A live recording at Nobu. Just 8 hours of your time. It's not much.
That's it. Well, yeah. What's your number 4?
This one's tough for me, actually, because I know what my top 4 are. And it was tough for me to decide between 3 and 4. My number 4 song is a song I used to think was the best song on the album. like when I first got into the album, like even when I didn't like totally understand it, this was always my favorite. And it is I Am a God. I just think it's just the whole concept of it is incredible because he's saying I am a god, but he's anything but a god, you know? Or if he is a god, he's living a really sad, like lonely life. He can't even get people to bring fucking croissants to him. Like, how much of a god is he? I just love the irony of it, but I think I love more than anything, like the fact that people don't understand the irony, which I think informs my like personal connection to the song. Like I so instantly got the irony and what Kanye was expressing by calling himself a god in the context of the lyrics and like the soundscape of the song, because the song doesn't sound divine or anything. It doesn't sound like he lives a great life, yet all people see is like the headline, what's on the paper. They just see the words and they think like, oh, Kanye's an arrogant asshole. And to me, like, that is why I love Kanye, because he's not afraid to do that. He's not afraid to be artistic first and express himself in a way that's not conventional. And he's okay with people thinking that about him, because the people who do understand, like, what the message is, like, it becomes more powerful then once you can see through the irony and see the narrative. And it really just blows up the importance of I Am a God, this song where, you know, Kanye, who's trying to like start a revolution and become a leader and inspire people, is realizing that the way he acts actually repels people and alienates him. And this song, case in point, does it like more than any. Like, he calls himself a god. He has a conversation with Jesus, and everything sounds all hunky-dory on paper until Kanye starts running down an alleyway or something and screams. Again, like, such an insane choice for a musician to make, to just have a part of your song where you're screaming and scared and don't know what to do. It's fucking, I don't know, it's one of his most like courageous songs.
Yeah, reaching that point of the screams is always
Crazy.
like that was the thing that I loved. Like, if it really was the pure ego that people thought it was, as you described, like him ending the song with that kind of screaming just doesn't make sense. But if it's ironic, then what we see is, yeah, he's pumping himself up, even though he knows that's not the case. Like, he already knew that people in Middle America hated him and didn't believe him, and he's just trying to justify himself and force it in such a way that he's having this schism.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
I don't need to talk anymore about it. I mean, we've talked about it like ad nauseum on this show, so
Yeah.
I could go on though.
Oh yeah. Maybe we will someday, you know?
Maybe. Number 3.
Number 3, I have the one, the only Black Skinhead.
Oh man, we're gonna cover like every song in this album.
Not on your list?
It is not.
Yeah, I've always dug the soundscape of Black Skinhead. Like, I really liked the punk rock aesthetics of it and the energy of it. I tend to like more gothic and haunting things just in general, which is probably why Yeezus alternates between 1 and 2 favorite album for me from Kanye. There's just something so cool to me about where this song starts, how it brings in these kind of horrific figures like King Kong, the mummy out the tomb, like the werewolf that he's talking about being possessed, and it's this omen, and this idea of him just driving at 4 a.m. and kind of in this weird state of mind where these are the thoughts. Like, there's something at once very motivating by what he's saying and also very broken in the kind of person he's presenting himself as. And that's kind of what we just talked about with I Am a God, right? There's so much ego and confidence, but at the same time, there's a fragility to it. And I think Black Skinhead really introduces that well and sets up the ego that blows up onto I Am a God. I just think it's one of Kanye's most interesting songs in how it builds up that juxtaposition and that dichotomy to where you believe him as somebody that's commenting on the world around him, and he's saying very cogent and thoughtful things. You're like, yeah, he has a point, while also being somebody that's just outrageous and that you feel like is going to crash. Like, I'm doing 500, I'm out of control, but there's nowhere to go and there's no way to slow.
Yeah. I really think that's where Black Skinhead excels. I mean, beyond being a fucking dope ass song with that guitar lick, like, it's just, I think the most impressive thing about it is everything it sets up on the album. Like, everything you just described, on top of like so many little things, like it introduces this idea of a skinhead and what a skinhead is, and like how like this is getting deep and crazy and like conspiracy theory-ish, but like skinhead is rooted in like Jamaican culture, or they were inspired by Jamaican cultures when skinheads were founded or when they first came into the fold. And there's a very strong Jamaican influence on the album, so it feels like the energy he's trying to capture on Black Skinhead then kind of becomes part of the soundscape and just becomes like the skeleton of the album. Like, that is part of Kanye and something he's always carrying with him. Just like little shit like that is crazy, and maybe we're making that up, but I don't know. I mean, that is what it is. Like, there is Jamaican influence all over the album.
Yeah, it would be strange that that's just a coincidence. And skinhead, for anybody that doesn't know, was a term for first describing the punk movement in the UK. It didn't really have anything to do with Nazis, but eventually the movement became very political, like both ways, to where you just had extreme left and extreme right. Yeah. But in America, we tend to think of skinheads as being Nazis, and even the stylized version of the song title was BLKKK SKKK NHEAD. So I think with all the dichotomies we see on Yeezus, it's interesting that we see that dichotomy too, of the idea of Kanye being a punk rocker or embodying this anti-establishment view, while also looking at the racist aspects of it as well.
That shit's, I can't, I'm just shaking my head. Crazy. You got anything else to say about Black Skinhead?
Nope.
All right. Number 3 for Travis. I'm thinking you've already done 3. I'm going to guess this isn't on your list. Bound 2.
It is not.
Wow. God, this is how you get a long episode. Talk about every single song on Yeezus.
Yeah.
Bound 2 to me is just, this is my top 3 now, because I Am God used to be my favorite. My top 3 are now just because of this show and everything we've discovered about the album and how deep and layered these songs become in the context of the entire narrative on the album. And to me, Bound 2 is like, man, that shit's crazy. Because like, basically you have a guy who starts in like kind of a bad, lonely place. He wants to do a lot of his life and then kind of crashes when he realizes that he's going to fail, and then he retreats to these women in his life, and he's trying to find like catharsis through romance, but only gets hurt more. So then he regresses and becomes the asshole again on Send It Up until he meets, his Kim, and Bound 2 is kind of like the epilogue to everything. And it's just kind of it's crazy because like what Bound 2 is and the state he's in on that, and the happiness in quotes he's found, feels so different than like everything that was being set up. It kind of recalls On Sight, he'll give us what we need. It may not be what we want. Like, the character in this album never knew what he wanted. He never knew what he would find on Bound 2. And when I use that framework and then I listen to Bound 2 and I experience it, it's one of the most like, I don't know, it's incredible. Like, at a moment in Kanye's discography, like that reaching the very end and experiencing Bound 2 is incredible. Like, I love the sound of it. I love that he's still kind of an asshole, but like a loving asshole. Like, he's found a way to be romantic and Yeezus at the same time. And it sounds like he's on a path to be better. Like, he's willing to walk up the church steps. He's willing to, try out marriage maybe, like if they can make it work. And I love the energy of it.
Yeah, the energy of it is fantastic. Just that change of pace. I remember when the album first came out, I had a friend that was like, I don't like the album because it just isn't musical. And then you get to the last song and it finally has music. And
Yeah,
I was like,
it's
yes,
like that's purposely done.
that's the point. That's why On Sight has the interlude. That's the gospel musical interlude that feels so abnormal for the front half of the album or all of the album until you get to Bound 2, and why that he'll give us what we need. It may not be what he'll give you what you, it may not be what we want, is so beautiful, and nothing else is until Bound 2. And they have that sonic match because she is supposed to represent, this is what God brought you to. All your trials and tribulations were just to get you to this point. Like, you didn't want to go through the pain that you went through in the middle part of this album, but you needed to go through it. You needed to have your ego broken and checked. You needed to get in touch with your vulnerable side that you had closed yourself off from. Like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible because basically you're describing the album really has no sonic release to it until the very end. Any release that happens on any of the songs is like negative. Like the screaming in I Am a God, like that's a change in pace and like an exertion of something. New Slaves, it's getting high at the end. And I'm in it, it's, it's a crazy rant at the end where like he's just an egomaniac. Bound 2's release is like it's like ethereal, like it just kind of flows, and it becomes something it becomes its own thing that is so separate from the album. It feels like a release for the entire album, basically.
Yeah, and then we could talk for hours just about Jerome's in the House.
Gosh, I didn't even get Jerome's. I didn't get to it.
Yeah.
We can't do this.
No. Oh, we're already at half an hour. Like, just go listen to our Bound 2 episode, and you'll hear us gush about Jerome's in the House.
Yeah, and we'll probably do another episode on it someday.
Yeah, have to. Okay.
All right, number 2.
My number 2, and I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. It might also be your number 2.
I think it is.
Hold My Liquor.
Yep.
Okay. Great.
Let's both talk at the same time to save time, though.
All right. So Justin Vernon
it's just
and
like
Chief
such a
Keef,
majestic song.
their
Justin Vernon and
ability
Chief
to
Keef,
play off
their
of each
ability
other
to play off of each other
is something that I just think.
Go ahead.
I was going to keep going, but I was fascinated by.
I was just going to keep going, but I was fascinated by
hearing
what you were saying.
Well, their ability to play off of each other, with Justin Vernon representing this more vulnerable side, and Chief Keef representing this more ego.
How do I say it?
Side that you can't,
ego side.
You can't fuck with me. You can't control me. It's such a good dichotomy that is the bulk of this middle part of the album.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I don't even know, like, we've talked about Hold My Liquor so much. It's won the Kanye West song tournament between you and Jordan and I. We know it's Jordan's favorite song ever. It's I mean, we could get into the story of it and everything, and how like this is the first woman he encounters on like post New Slaves when he needs saving. But to me, man, it's just the sound of this song. Like, it's so incredible. I've never heard a rap song sound like this. It's guitar. It's like dreamy. It's ambient. It's, I don't know. It's so separate from the album too. It's such a change in pace. And then it's definitely like the way it sets up I'm In It, which is abrasive, and like the way it carries you through like what the character's going through. I don't even know where to start.
The one line I just want to highlight that was the reason that I first fell in love with the song, not just sonically, because as you're saying, like the outro with the guitar is amazing, but it's after the aunt's speech where she's like, he's a loner, he's just a late night organ donor. After he fucks you, he's gonna disown you. It's just gonna be hopeless. Like, you two think you're soulmates, but you're gonna become soulless. And it's after this speech from the aunt that Kanye comes back in one last time with "and bitch, I'm back out my coma." And one of the things that we talk about that he does so well is repeating a line, but through the context of the song, you realize it means something different than what it meant before. Like, before, it was just him coming out of the coma of drinking and drugs and waking up the next day. But here it's coming out of the coma of trying to be romantic with this girl again, like returning to this old flame and thinking like maybe I could have something special with her. But after he's fucked her or spent this time, like, yeah, he's coming out of his coma and he's just gonna be a dick again.
He's just gonna be I'm in it Kanye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a disservice to say any more about that song because you should just listen to it. Yeah, but the outro. Okay, number 1. We all know what it is.
Blood on the Leaves.
Yeah, of course. It's everybody's favorite Yeezus song.
I low-key still get semi-upset, even though I'm a huge proponent of, like, you like what you like what you like. When people are like, I hate Blood on Leaves, I'm like,
really? People say that? That's crazy.
Some people. There have been
it's
people.
Incredible.
Yeah. I remember thinking that nothing would ever top Runaway and like the epicness of Runaway, and then Yeezus comes out and I was like, nope, that's it. Like, that's on par with, in terms of just like the epic nature of Runaway. Yeah. The Nina Simone sample, how he takes the idea of lynching in the historical physical sense and applies it to the modern materialistic sense, and how men and women kind of lynch each other, so to speak, in terms of how they use one another, is just endlessly fascinating and deep to me.
Yeah, I mean, that song has everything. It's not on my list, so everything I say sounds like doesn't matter. But I honestly think it's probably not on my list because it is so epic, which probably doesn't make any sense to Chris. But it's like, to me, that song is like an experience as opposed to like a song that I enjoy, like, say, on site. Like, it's something that moves so much like a movie. Like, it's something you really have to sit down and like think about and delve into and just experience. It's such an incredible song.
It sounds like essentially you saying it's not you, it's me.
It kind of is.
Like, oh no,
I love it to death.
You didn't do anything wrong. Like, it's not you, it's me. Like, I need to work on myself. Like, oh, it's just you're too epic of a song.
Kanye, you are. It is. It truly is. Kanye, you fucked up.
You're one of those people.
Okay. And yeah, number 1, and for me, is I'm in it. Pretty much for everything Chris said, but to me, really, it's that 1-2 punch of Hold My Liquor 2, I'm in it, and how those two songs like take two very different angles on the male-female dynamic and how that sets up Blood in the Leaves. But I'm in it, to me, is just like kind of in another stratosphere. Like, it is kind of like just the abrasiveness of it and the aggressiveness and how the energy he's channeling there and how it signals one thing but means another. Like, he is meaning to have, well, I guess there are two meanings to it, because he's meaning to have this deep relationship with this woman that he's having sex with, and in a way he does. Like, I think they actually share a genuine connection, but that connection they share, to me, is also rendered kind of hollow and empty because it's kind of based on sex. Like, he's attaching so much more meaning to it than is there. Kind of like Hell of a Life, where he's in love with a porn star that he's not actually with. I'm in it. He is trying to find catharsis, but not quite getting there. And I think that is, again, part of the running theme of story of the album, the Sonic story, where he's not finding release in any of these songs. This is like, to me, the most non-release he's finding. Like, he's pouring himself into this woman and like trying to become better, but it's just kind of like, it's just sex and it's just ego. And he caps it off with that outro, the best outro ever, man, where it is nothing but ego. And like, by the end of it, you just think like nothing's been accomplished here. It's I don't know, in terms of like a song and how it fits into the narrative, it's probably one of his best. And then on top of that, like, I just love it as a song. The production of it is insane. The way it moves, it has like 10 different parts. To me, it's my Blood in the Leaves.
Nice. I just read this interview that Justin Vernon did about it for the first time, and he said the imagery of the song is definitely intense, but so is American Psycho. I love that the little American Psycho clip he did, it puts things into context, because Kanye feels like a director, and I don't think everything he's saying in the songs is actually him saying it every time. It's like a movie or a concept. I'm in it, it seems like I'm playing a character in the song, but I'm not necessarily guiding who that character is. Kanye's editing creates the character. I definitely remember the Starfucker section in the middle, though, just calling somebody out. That's my favorite lyrical content that I've gotten to do on a Kanye record so far.
You said this happened recently?
No, I think it's from back in the day. It's just, I just saw it for the first time.
Oh, gotcha. That's crazy. I've never read that either.
Yeah.
So we're right.
Once again, we are proven correct.
So sorry about this episode.
Yeah. Anyway, stay wavy.
Keep it loopy.